We now live in a world where you can own your very own home projector for $73. Think about that. This is the Xinda LED projector. Now, as you might expect for this price point, it is not 1080p. Flipping it over here on the side, you can see the tech specs. It says the projection distance is 1.2 to 3.8 meters, but the image size is going to be 36 to 130 inches. It is LED lighting, and it's 800 by 480 resolution at 800 lumens with a contrast ratio of 800 to 1, although the Amazon listing says 1000 to 1. Still, it should be far and away brighter than the smaller ones that I've looked at previously. Over here on the other side, it mentions 1080p FHD decoding, and it does optical keystone correction, which again, the smaller ones I've looked at before do not do. And this one was a fraction of the price. So let's dig into the box. Pull everything out because it's all encased in foam. You got a nifty little foam box inside a box. So you've got a user guide. It says simplified micro projector, SMP UC40 Plus. I had not seen a model number up until now. If I had to guess, the Xinda company is probably rebranding this one, which is perfectly fine and understandable. But this gives you a little diagram of the product and its remote and some operating instructions with just all kinds of ways to connect it here on the back in case you need it. Over here is the remote. Pretty plain and simple. Looks like it'll get the job done. Got a smattering of buttons on it, not a huge amount to it. Of course, you've got your power cable. Interesting to see there's no external power brick or anything. And a 3.5mm to RCA jacks. Haven't used one of these in a long time, but it's there in case you need it. And last, but certainly not least, the projector. By the way, I forgot to mention no batteries included with the remote. You would probably expect that, but it's gonna take 2 AAA batteries. And this projector is quite a bit larger than the ones I've looked at before, but it is still really, really small. So here's your focus and keystone adjustments. Lots of marketing branding materials on here. Back button, play button, circle buttons with an OK in the middle, and power, and what looks like a menu button, and probably the input button. So taking a quick look around the rest of it, over here, got the power input. Again, no external power brick, really surprising to me. On the back, we have what appears to be the IR blaster and a VGA port in a very interesting position. Probably won't end up using that, I don't use VGA all that much anymore. Then on this side we have a full-size SD card slot, USB input and output 5 volt, HDMI input, the AV input that we looked at earlier, and headphones, just in case you want some sort of external speakers, or if you wanted to wear headphones you could. On the front you have a rubber lens cap, looks like it just pulls off, and there's your lens. And then on the underside it mentions LED projector, input type. Here's a little foot you've got, and that little foot does kind of unscrew. I guess if you want to make some slight modifications, make it a little bit taller. It doesn't pull out or anything, but it will unscrew all the way out if you want it to. So I guess at its sort of highest, you could have it stand up maybe 1.5 inches. And at this point, let me go ahead and get this all hooked up, powered on, get a data source hooked up to it and everything. Maybe test it out with some USB and an SD card. And we'll see how this thing works. All right, we are in sort of a dimly lit room, and I've gone ahead and turned the projector on, hooked everything possible that I can up to it. Meaning I put in an SD card, a USB thumb drive, and I even hooked up the PS4. And this is by default what we were greeted with. You can see that it is upside down and flipped. So what I'm going to do is take the remote. There's a button in the bottom left corner called turn. I'm going to tap that, and actually it immediately fixed it. If you keep tapping it though, it switches it to other rotations, and that's back to where we were. So there you go. And before we go any further, I should mention I have already looked at the focus and the keystone controls. Basically these 2 little wheels on the front that I showed you earlier. The first one you can see, if I move it, it just puts it in and out of focus, so it makes it kind of easy to dial it in. Second one, you may be able to see that it's kind of flipping the keystone there. It's moving it around just a little bit. So you can kind of dial it in to be a little bit more rectangular, kind of how you want it to be. But this is the interface, the UI that we're greeted with when I've got all of these things plugged in. It may come up differently depending on what you've actually got connected, but let's just see what happens. So we got movie, photo, text, and music, and in the bottom left corner it mentions USB 2.0, and it also shows an SD card. So we move around by using the buttons on the remote, the up, down, left, right. So down, yeah, I can just move through these 4, it looks like. If I hit movie, I have option to go to USB 3, that's my USB drive. And up in here I see, yeah, I've got 3 videos on there. So if I go ahead and select one of them and hit play, it says all files unsupported. Unsupported file, yeah. So apparently it will not play an MP4 file. Good to know. And that's the grand majority of what I have. I don't have any music or text or anything. Let's see if I can change the input. So I'll hit input, and now I have the option of AV, HDMI, SD, or PCRGB. The only ones I have right now are HDMI and SD. Let's try SD. So it's taking a little bit of time, sort of restarting itself. And now you see in the bottom left corner there, it has the SD highlighted, it says SD 2.0. If I hit movie, Canon. This is actually the card that I pulled out of my Canon Vixia Mini X I use for daily vlogging. Let's just pick one of these. And again, it's MP4, so it's probably not going to play it. Oh, it is playing it. So we'll try to play it out. Well, it's definitely playing. And it's continuing on to the next one. And I hit the escape button to get back out. So it's very cool. It will play MP4s. Just for some reason it wouldn't do it from the USB drive. I don't think I have anything on the photo side. Let's just check. Oh, I do have one. So there's a photo. And when I hit play on it, it displays the photo. And the image is not the best. It's not as clear as it could be, but on the camera it actually looks pretty decent. And it does a little bit of a photo slideshow, even though there's only one photo in that directory. Let's change our input over to HDMI, see what the PS4 will do. And it's actually playing music back through it. You can hear some of the UI stuff. But here's PS4 information. Again, this would probably work a little better in a more dimly lit room. The camera is actually looking a little darker than it is in here. And actually on the camera it's a little easier to see. Picture doesn't look bad though. Let's just load up a random game that I happen to have downloaded. And actually the music coming out of it doesn't sound all that bad. It's not something I want to use as a primary, but in a pinch I think it would work. Let's see if I can turn it down. But yes, there are volume controls on the remote, so I just hit down. It was at 50 to start with. We're now at 25. We'll take it down to 20. That's about right. 19. Okay. So one player on Kitten Squad. Apparently this is a PETA game. I don't know why I have it. And we're able to move around. I'm able to control it and see what's going on. That's pretty nice. Yeah, I don't end up playing the PS4 all that much, so there were a bunch of updates and everything. I decided to go ahead and switch over to my Mac. So you can see here I do have it connected. When I did connect it, it popped up and said 1080p. We'll connect it again just so you can see that. Down in the bottom corner there it says 1080p at 60 Hertz, although all the text is pretty much impossible to read. But if I want, I can always come over to YouTube, I can hit a button here, and there you have it. It is playing back a video of mine, and actually the video looks pretty decent, but again, it's just kind of hard to read some of the smaller text. If you're using it for what most projectors are intended for, just watching movies, playing games, things like that, it looks like it would do a halfway decent job. It's just not hugely bright. I'm currently sitting about 6 to 7 feet away from the wall, and it's projecting an image that's like 50 inches. It's slightly larger than my 42-inch TV that's over there. Is it the best quality image I've ever seen? Definitely not. The projector itself is really decently loud, but it's got SD, it's got USB, HDMI, and even that weird RCA connector that I'm never going to end up using, and an audio out port if you wanted to have a pair of speakers hooked up to it. I'm going to go ahead and just say it. For the initial impressions, if you're looking for something just to be able to project onto a very dark wall into a dark room, this is probably going to get you started. $73 over on Amazon. It doesn't look all that bad. And looking at it in the camera, again, it doesn't look that bad. Colors are a little bit saturated, but there's even a menu that I haven't been into yet. You can see it says picture mode picture, documents, user, so you can change all these settings on it that I haven't even touched yet. There's color temperature you can change, which might actually help. Warm, cool, yeah, you can make it whatever you'd like it to be. So right now it's a little bit red, it's a little bit saturated. There's an aspect ratio option, there's noise reduction you can turn on or off. There's a sound menu, a time menu, more options. You can even do software updates on this over USB. So really, for the amount of features you get on this, $73, it's absolutely a steal. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link to where you can find this down in the video description if you're interested in it. Let me know what else you'd like to see about something like this down in the comment section below. But I think that's going to wrap things up for me for today. Very interesting little projector. I'm actually really impressed with it for the price. Thanks so much to Xinda for allowing me to check this out. Thanks to you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, subscribe to receive more, and we'll see you again next time.